And we're here live on rivercountrysports.com for the second week of the Coaches Show here for Brantford High School, where I'm your host, Jackson Jones, along with head coach of the Buccaneers, Coach Tim Clark. Thanks for joining us again, Coach Clark. As we seen Friday night, may not have went as well as we planned with a loss to North Florida Educational, 32-20 there. But I mean, tell us kind of your overall thoughts there on the game.
Well, obviously, a week one loss is disappointing. It's not the way we wanted to set the tone for the year, but we really challenged the kids when we came in for Film Monday to have some perspective, just with how good that football team actually was. We didn't have a whole lot of film going in to that game, and man, when they got off the bus, we really realized, man, we're gonna have to play. And the more that we break down that film, and we're continuing to, and we will. We really played for the majority of the game pretty well, and made some plays. And, we knew going into it they were the type of team that would have some athleticism, and it may be a big play dictated type game, and it certainly was. We were, in our estimation, probably 3 plays away from being able to seal that game. 99-yard pick six, and blew 2 coverages. So the things that we want to see every single week, regardless of outcome, that discipline, effort, and toughness, and just a lot of enthusiasm to be on the field playing, positivity, not pointing fingers. We did see that, and there was a lot to build on from that, even in a disappointing loss and we really don't feel like we lost to a bad football team. That was a good team. We may not see potentially a front, on the offensive and defensive lines quite like that for the remainder of the year, just in terms of length and overall size and athleticism and explosiveness at the point of attack. So they were pretty good. We made a lot of plays and came up just a few short, but I think it really has affected the way that we've had 2 days of practice now this week.
Right. So those 2 days of practice, you came in and you kind of, when you were going over film with the guys, I mean, you kind of told them to be kind of optimistic to it. I mean, because like not really letting the first loss of the season. I mean, that's one thing we had happened to us last season is the first game. I mean, it's one that came out as a loss, but I mean, not letting that really define your season, in a sense. But I mean, you mentioned a couple big plays that really kind of determined the game. I mean, y'all got that last final drive on the way, to tying the game if we would have punched it in there for the touchdown, but then being able to kick the extra point for the go ahead point there. I mean, what that really drive look like? I mean, because there was a lot of energy really in the stands, for it, but then I'm sure it was the same on the field. I mean, what was your perspective on the drive, kind of there?
Well, certainly when we have an opportunity to be in one of those game tying or game winning situations, we've got to focus a little bit more. And we had some assignment breakdowns on that final drive, just in terms of a couple protections, and quarterback reads, things like that, man. But that's a competitive, high intensity situation, our first ones of the year, in the regular season. So, we can look at that final drive, but to us, we looked at that and said, hey, look, that's a good football team that buckled down and bent. We got to midfield, but they didn't break. We kind of tip our hat to them at that point. The things that we focused on more than that final drive were other plays in the football game that we felt that if we had made them, we would have put ourselves in a much better opportunity to win. Everybody wants to, especially from a fan standpoint, look at that final drive because that's what you remember, most freshly in your mind, I guess. But the drive that we had right before half, down 8-7, after just blowing a coverage for their first touchdown, we get the ball back and we drive the length of the field essentially, and we get down to the, off of 2 pretty big pass plays to Maurice Fought. We get to the 2-yard line, have first and goal at the 2. And we ran the ball twice and then tried to throw it on third down. DB made a phenomenal undercut, picked the ball off, and took it 99 yards. So that went from, with about a minute left in the first half, having an opportunity to potentially be up, 13-8 or 14-8,
Yeah.
and then going into halftime instead down 14-7.
Right.
So even with that, had a ton of momentum in the locker room and energy in terms of let's get back out there and turn a 1-score game into a tie football game or a lead. on this opening possession because we were getting the ball to start the second half. And then we get the ball and end up fumbling and turning the ball over on that first drive and giving it to him on the 19.
Right.
So that was a big play for us. That turnover of the first drive of the second half, that pick six right before the first half, you're talking about pretty much consecutive plays that didn't go our direction. Those to me had a much bigger bearing on the outcome of the game than the final drive because they played some good defense, and that final drive challenge just got up in our face and really brought pressure, a ton of pressure on that final drive. So those two plays right there around halftime, and then the two blown coverages obviously are ones that'll eat us up for a little bit.
For sure. So a couple of your guys, I mean, you started off early, really being able to put the ball on the ground when you seen Ollie James there, number 2, your running back, being able to the first touchdown that y'all scored that he broke around to the right side. He was able to run the ball pretty good to start, but then I mean we kind of seen him start limping a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know to what extent that really was, but I mean is that something you think kind of hindered his running a little bit? Because I've seen you swapping him and Smith number 6 out a good bit. So what would that really look like his running wise?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, they made it very tough for us to run the football from the start of the game. Now we started out the game slowing down their pass rush and their run stopping ability just a little bit with you saw the freeze calls in the first drive. We got them
Right.
we got them 4 times on that first drive. So like that opening drive had the appearance of us being able to move the ball down the football field and score. But essentially, we covered 72 yards on the first drive with 2 offensive plays because we had a 5-yard run. We had like 4
Right.
offsides penalties
Yeah.
by them, and then Ollie busted a 32-yard run on a power that we really honestly didn't block very well. He just made a football play and got around the edge, and a guy fell down. So, that's one of those that looked on the stat sheet like we got the ball and drove it down the field, and certainly raises our offensive play average. But they made it really, really tough. They were a hard football team to run the ball against. So that's why coming back in that second quarter, we started opening up a little bit and find some avenues where we could get the ball in space to Reese in the passing game. Trent did a good job of that, and ultimately put us down in position to try to take the lead right there before the half.
Right. Yeah. So we seen like the kind of lack of running the ball there, but then we seen another guy who came off the field was your number 9, Poindexter. I mean, how he came off and was off for a while, but I think was able to return later on in the game. Correct?
Yeah. So we made the decision, our athletic training staff, to sit him for the remainder of the half when he hurt his knee, just so that we could get to the locker room and do a little bit more evaluation on where he was at, retape it, try to get it where he was comfortable enough to go and play in the second half, and he was able to, but it did hinder his mobility a little bit, and kind of made us move some parts around when they got in certain offensive formations that defensively we needed him to cover. That gave us a little bit of apprehension in the one-on-one situations there. But no, he toughed it out. He's a gritty kid, and he showed us the other night, even as a sophomore, that he's willing to play through a little bit of pain. So you can't ask for much more than that.
Right. Yeah. So we seen a lot of good work out of your running back, and then your couple other guys. You mentioned Reese Vaught being able to make a couple catches in space there. That both of those just really good picking up yardage there. But I mean, we also seen, like, talking about your quarterback Trent Land. I mean, he didn't have very much help when it come to running the ball, so it's kind of made it to where he had to do a lot by himself. I mean, you had even him throwing the ball. I mean, you didn't have a ton of time per se because of the defensive line you were facing. You talked about that being one of the better lines of the season that you'd probably face. But what did that make it tough on him at all? I mean, I'm sure it did, but like, what was he kind of communicating back and forth with you about like the line collapsing and then having to kind of I mean, we seen him take off. I mean, he had a good run right there. I believe he scored on it, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
That good touchdown run there. I mean, but what was he kind of communicating to you there?
Well, again, that's Trent's first regular season varsity start, as our guy. Like, he moved up at the end of the year last year on JV, and was learning the system. But in terms of just being our full-time, all-in quarterback, as a 10th grade kid, that's his first regular season start. And I thought he overall did a really good job. The interception that he threw was a whip route on the goal line that you're looking at a ball that was undercut really well by the DB, and it's a 4-inch miss. 4 inches to the left, Reese probably snags it, and we score a touchdown and go up. But that was kind of my message to him, is that the margins at this level are really thin when you play that position. Everybody from the stand says, man, the quick wheel that we threw to Reese there to get in the red zone on that drive before the end of the half was a really good ball, and it certainly was. It was a great read, great ball. But that's another one. He puts that ball maybe 3 or 4 inches more inside. Reese probably catches that and scores, and we never throw the pick six, right?
Right.
So those are little things that, we make aware to him that, man, the great football plays can become, some of those that we'll never forget, by just keep getting reps and keep studying film and keep working on those tiny little technical things that, are inherent to that position, really, to where, people will start to see that he can make those ones that are really game-changing, not just really good football plays. The next throw after that quick wheel, we ran slant wheel and ran Reese up the sideline, and he had a window to fit the ball over a man coverage DB that was in phase that was maybe, and we're talking about a basketball-sized window, over the kid's helmet, but within reach of Reese, back shoulder, and he put it exactly where it needed to be on a rope, and got us down to the 2. The play that you're talking about in the third quarter, I told him on film in the meeting Monday, that technique creates opportunity, and that was one where, we had drop back pass in the pocket, had a pretty decent pocket built for him, even with their pass rush. Yeah. Worked him to the outside, and I thought back to all the drills that he did in the summer where we would work stepping up into the pocket versus pass rush, reactionary drills like that, and it was teach tape type stuff. He stepped crossover plant, saw the pressure, stepped up into the pocket. There's a giant hole, took off, and scored a touchdown from 30 yards out. So, he's starting to, hopefully, with one game under his belt now, varsity regular season experience, see those little things come to fruition, even in a loss. So we texted all weekend. He's all in. He's really, really motivated to be the leader that we need. And he had a good night. Like I said, other than that pick, he was 11 for 18, 137 yards and a touchdown. Right. 1 interception, and also had the touchdown on the ground. So
good night for him.
Sure. That's a very solid night against a team that was really fast. Challenged us by getting in press coverage man. With one high safety and putting athletes up in our face and just challenging us to win. In one-on-one matchups, and he delivered the ball well. For the most part.
For sure. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back here on the Coaches Show for Branford High School at rivercountrysports.com.
No matter what's around the corner, we'll be there. That's why Farm Bureau Insurance has been a trusted name for over 70 years. You deserve more. You deserve a promise.
Local people, great rates, friendly service. That's the Farm Bureau Insurance promise. Farm Bureau Insurance, serving Florida for over 70 years. In Suwannee County, you'll find Farm Bureau in Branford and in Live Oak. In Branford on Drain Street, phone 935-1274. And in Live Oak on Dowling Avenue, call 362-1274. Farm Bureau Insurance.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Van Carpet One. For 78 years, we've been your local family-owned and operated floor covering store, and we can't wait to serve you. Let's go check out some of the stuff we've got and say hey to the guys.
Hey guys, this is Michael Van here at Van Carpet One. Wanted to show you our huge display of carpet. Got about 1,000 rolls for you that we can order. We also keep about 100 in stock that are on clearance, so please come down and give us a visit. We appreciate it.
Come in and see the largest tile collection in North Florida. Van Carpet One has every tile you could possibly imagine. If you can't find it here, they don't make it. Guys, take a look at this. This is just some of our options in waterproof vinyl plank, where we have the largest selection anywhere around here, including over 70 pallets in stock, ready to go right now. Come in and see our fantastic selection of elegant hardwood too, followed up by fantastic service that you expect from a company like Van Carpet One.
Come on in and see us.
We can't wait to serve you. And that's a boom shakalaka.
All right, we're back here live on the Coaches Show at rivercountrysports.com, where we've just went over a little bit about the first half there and the rest of the game against North Florida Educational for the Bucks. I mean, Coach pretty much explained to us that we were not able to per se run the ball a whole lot, but then we're able to navigate the ball in other senses. But we talked about your offense a lot there. But I mean, what'd you see really on the defense side of the ball? Because I mean, we seen a lot of guys make good stops. I mean, who were some of those guys that really stood out to you?
Well, as the defense as a whole, I thought, we hang our hat, as playing in the defense on pursuit. That's essentially what defense is when they blow the whistle that plays over, how many hats do we have in the vicinity of the football? And against a spread team like that, that's saying a lot because the ball could literally be anywhere. And
Right.
There were a team of athletes that you saw calling the game certainly relied on a lot of reverse field situations where, your backside pursuit and eye control angles is really, really paramount, right? So guys who have contained backside have to stay home because the number 4, number 12, and number 6, certainly those open field guys that they had, the quarterback, receiver, and running back, at any point could reverse field and go the complete opposite direction.
Right.
And they did. So I thought we did a really good job of that. Where we lacked a little bit and we're working hard this week because it's really hard to simulate at practice is, open field tackling in terms of really good athletes running through arm tackles, right?
Right.
Having great eye control and keeping our head up and running through the hip and not reaching. So I think we struggle with that at times, but for the most part, again, we're talking. They scored that late touchdown right there at the very end. With 30 seconds or so left, and we're trying to get the ball out. Right, so essentially, it was a 26-20 football game, and 2 of their scores were off complete busted coverages. They had a 4th and 2 that they converted on one of those busted coverages. So for the most part, we bent, but we didn't break against a really athletic team.
Right.
So the effort was phenomenal. I thought we played physical. You asked about specific guys who stood out. I'd say that Devin Waller, playing that outside linebacker position as the leading tackler the other night, just continues to find ways to just get to the football.
Yeah.
Which is really, really good. He doesn't seem to get tired defensively. He makes a play, gets up, looks angry, and goes back and does it again. And that's what we want at the linebacker position. So he's shown us that we can start to do a little bit more with him from the outside linebacker position in terms of maybe dialing up some pressures and blitzes with him, and we can trust him to contain and trust him to do what he's supposed to do. But we don't have to worry about the effort and the physicality because for another week he brought it.
He did, for sure. I mean, so you seen some guys. I mean, like that's the guy I was going to point out because we called his name. We called his name time and time again just up there on the broadcast. Which the broadcast you can also check out a review of Friday night's game right there on rivercountrysports.com on the YouTube channel. So make sure to like and subscribe and share to all your friends as well. But that's one guy that we really pointed out a lot. Because I mean he was all over the field. I mean he acted like he wanted it, but I mean. So he's not one of those that you have found yourself using on offense a lot, have you?
Not so much. I know he can, but where he plays for us offensively at the tight end position, we're pretty deep there.
Right.
We're pretty deep with Cole Poindexter and Vernon Richards playing that spot, and then Tripp and TC Carson, some of those other guys that play that 3 and 4 back position that can hybrid and put their hand in the dirt if they need to play inline tight end. That's where he fits on the offensive side of the ball. So we've let him focus on defense right now because we're pretty deep at those positions. And honestly, what he does for us too is gives a phenomenal look on the scout team for us during the week because we know we can put a starter level guy over there on that side of the ball when we're running Team O, and he's going to give the same kind of crazy wild man effort over there and make us better, right? So cost benefit analysis in terms of having a 5th tight end in the group, or making us better defensively with that look every week, simulating an opponent. That's just kind of what we've been going with. And it's kept him fresh, and he's flying around. I think the benefits are there.
Yeah, I mean, you seen for both teams, I mean, you had guys going both ways. Y'all's team, I mean, seemed to have the Bucks seem to definitely have a little more depth than than the Eagles had there on the other side. But I mean, they use guys all over the field going both ways as well. I mean, you've seen both teams have to do that, but I mean, Brantford definitely having a little more depth allowed for those fresher players, like you said, that are able to play just one side of the ball, being able to go full speed for the whole game, which is definitely nice to have. But if you want to talk about some of your leaders, I mean, some of your guys that you've seen. I mean, really, we talked about last week. Even though you have a young group, you still got guys who are willing and wanting to lead. I mean, who are some of those guys who have really stepped into that role, and then the guys you're also kind of looking for them to continue to step into that role as well?
Well, those names that we talked about last week in the first show, those three seniors that have been there for a long time, Arcavian, Tripp, and Wyatt, Derringer, they're guys that certainly are playing both ways for us. And you spoke about the depth for us. I mean, we tend to have that illusion of depth maybe because of the number of jerseys we're dressing on the sideline. But one thing to keep in mind is we're bringing JV kids up as dual rosters,
Right.
for certainly all the home games. So there were 5 or 6 of them up with us. And you mentioned the youth on our football team. We have a bunch of guys that are close, but Friday night is extremely important. It's important to those senior guys too, and so. We have a very high standard we talk about that line. If you're above the line, if you're below the line, if you're below where the coaching staff feels comfortable putting you into a Friday night, it counts type environment, you're probably not going in the football game.
Right.
So we're actively working to build depth through those younger guys that you see on the sideline to be above the line guys and ready. But really across our roster and what you see dressing, we're a small rural football team. In a small rural town, and we're still, for our starting 11 on both sides of the ball, I mean, we're rolling 18, 19 guys to cover all those positions. The majority of our guys are still playing both ways. Outside of the quarterback position, Devin playing that will and not rolling too much on offense. I mean, everybody else at every position is playing both sides of the ball at some point, and some of them the entire game and all special teams. So we are working to build that depth, but depth is something we really don't have a lot of right now.
Right.
So we're actively trying to, like I said, get guys above that line. If we can do that by elevating the potential usage of any player that we haven't been using, that's like adding somebody to the roster. And then we spoke today at the end of our practice, the more we can also cross-train some of these guys that are playing to say, okay, you've been playing the Sam, now learn to play the Will. You've been playing outside, learn to play inside. You've been playing the 3-back. Okay, you feel like you have that, learn to play the 2-back. That as well is like taking a new player and putting them on the roster.
Right.
So we're building depth in a multitude of ways, and that's certainly something that you need a week one to evaluate and see where you can do that.
Right. So you mentioned having those guys really which is a reigning thing I've heard talked about a lot, the above the line and below the line, and then some guys who are really right there at it, that you feel like are gonna maybe they're not first or second or even third game starting guys, but later on as you see them grow during the season, being able to develop and help you out a little later on in the season, because I mean football is prone to have injuries, so you've got to have guys who are there waiting, able to fill those positions. I mean you had your guys even like Trent and your Ollie and your Cole who came up from JV who were almost forced into that role a little bit of needing to be above the line, I'd say, but which, I mean, helped them grow a lot. The last couple games of the season where those 3 guys were playing just about every snap, you would say, of the game. I mean, it helped them grow a lot, which has been shown to help a lot, like starting off this season.
Certainly.
Yeah, so you got if you want to shift your focus a little bit, I mean, working those guys on the defensive side of the ball, the defense is, I think, going to be a big key in this week's game. I mean, you've got Weewahitchka, a team that we went and played last year, which was about how many hours away?
It's over 3.
Yeah, so
3:15, something like that.
Yeah, so that was the longer trip of the season that we really tried to take last year. But those guys that are coming in to play, which would be nice playing them here in Brantford this year, being able to get them again on the schedule. But I mean, tell us a little bit about that team. I mean, you've watched I'm sure a lot of film on them, and have really broken them down. But what are you kind of looking and expecting kind of out of that team?
Well, they're traditionally very physical. They're a downhill run team. They're starting to show now through a kickoff classic in a week one the desire to try to get the ball in the perimeter a little bit more than they did last year. Last year was a lot of downhill between the tackles, gap scheme type stuff. They were running power, they were running counter, they were running belly and trap, and lining up with multiple backs, multiple tight ends.
Oh
and,
yeah, they were
kind of going straight at you.
They were straight GT
and
puller.
that's the type of football that they want to play. And we're preparing for obviously a whole lot of different preparation and mindset than we had with our opponent last week. Being a spread team, getting the football, in space. This team doesn't want to get it in space as much. They kind of want to create space,
right.
In the interior and move the ball physically, right? So it's just a challenge for us, but it's fun, man. It's cool to break down a team like that and try to find tendencies, try to find, just little clues within their last two films of where we can get keys to give us indicators of what they're going to do. And overall I just think it's going to be a pretty fun night.
Yeah, for sure. Fun but physical night as well. I mean, we when we played them last year, it was, I'd say, one of the more tiring games that I've probably ever played.
Physical is fun, Jackson.
Physical is fun, yeah, correct. But I mean, you talked about Devin playing your will, but with them doing a lot of stuff, pulling guard and tackle, a lot of stuff more to the Sam side, allowing your will to come around the backside and making a tackle there. Who do you have playing your Sam currently?
Well, we don't see a lot of personnel changes in our future, especially this week in terms of what we lined up last week. We'll see. I'm not going to reveal too much about what we've moved around or who's healthy, who's not. We're just going to have to wait and see Friday night.
Right.
But yeah, certainly you're right. They do a lot of that same stuff. On film now, we haven't seen a lot of that GT, multiple puller stuff. If they're pulling multiple, they're running buck sweep. But, in terms of counteraction, guard tackle, haven't seen that a whole lot. Now we're going to rep it just in case, right? Because that's tough to defend. And certainly if they're watching any of our film last year, they could see that has the potential to be effective. So we'll certainly rep that and be prepared for it. But we're seeing more in film already now. We're seeing 21 personnel with a wing. It's two backs and a tight end, and they'll put a sniffer in there, and all three of those dudes are on the same side, and that's a pretty good indication of where the ball's going. They have a decent athlete at receiver that they'll flex, bring in jet motion, they'll run the sweep. Quarterback's athletic. So between the quarterback, that receiver that they have out there, they run the jet too, and then they have one running back that runs it pretty tough. That's kind of the focal points of their offense. There's not a whole lot of distribution in terms of ball carriers. What I've got them charted at right now, it's very, very high run percentage. So that's can be good, but it can be a really big challenge because if we have athletic, aggressive DBs who like to put their face in there like we do,
right?
It can be easy to fall asleep.
That's one thing I was going to bring up.
Bite on a run fake and get the ball thrown over your head. So, we have to be very aware of that. I'm drawing scout cards to try to trick ourselves this week, and just see how we respond because we can't get mad at them on Friday night on not being able to defend it if they haven't seen it. So we're going to give them a lot of different looks this week in the scout, but try to focus in on, obviously what we expect to see.
Yeah, so you mentioned them having a more athletic quarterback, which is something you've seen out of North Florida Educational, a guy who can run around and who can scramble in reverse field like you mentioned. With them doing a lot of running and not taking the ball to the air as much, is this something you're seeing? You're having your defensive line who is going to need to play a big part of the game. You've got a strong linebacking core, but your defensive line is really where it all starts, opening up a hole there and trying not to let the hole get open on them. But you seen kind of if they gave their quarterback time Friday night. So if they're able to do that, really what's the move there? Because they're giving if they're able to hold your D line, and then I believe that'll be tough. But I mean, what are your kind of thoughts on needing to prepare your defensive line opposed to what they're being able to run there?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, you're talking about pass rush against an athletic quarterback. That's a double-edged sword, right? Because you want to get pressure on the quarterback, but if you flush him and he can really roll, then that can be a problem, right? Especially if we're dropping a lot of dudes into coverage, or if we're turning our backs and running with guys in man-to-man. So, that's always a balance that you've got to have, where you protect yourself underneath with eyes on the cue, but then bring the pressure where you can. So last week we were hesitant to bring too much of that pressure and keep flushing him with the playmaking ability that he had with his feet. This week, with a downhill run team in, third and long situations, fourth and long situations, we may be a little bit more inclined to try to bring some pressure, knowing that that's not their wheelhouse, right? He's certainly an athletic guy. We believe we can tackle him. But if we get pressure on him, we think that the cost benefit there swings more on the benefit side of things, right? If we get pressure on him, we can force him into trying to throw balls that he's probably not comfortable throwing, as much, right? And then focus on rallying the tackle with pursuit. So, we'll see how it goes. You get into the flow of the game, and you can start to get a feel of those things on what you can do play calling wise. But we'll have everything ready.
For sure. So we are going. Also, quick shout out to Burger King of Live Oak there on 129 South for sponsoring us and providing meals for the team and for the crew. So we want to give a quick thank you to them. But we are going to take a quick break, and we will see you right back here live for the Coaches Show on rivercountrysports.com. Thank you for joining us here at the halftime show. We're here with one of our alumni players that's played here at Brantford High School, Barrett Young. Thank you for joining us here today, Barrett.
Yeah.
It's good to have you with us. Hey, so tell us a little bit about your time here at Brantford and kind of what that journey looked like.
So it was a little bit different. It wasn't too long ago. I'm not quite that old. I graduated in 21. Back then, it was pretty much in ninth grade. As soon as you got done with your JV season, you'd move straight up to varsity. And a lot of us guys, we didn't maybe have the depth that you see nowadays in schools, where there's more students that are attending, more people want to do football. So back then, I mean, we ninth graders were starters. As soon as we moved up, first game we were starting, and I got thrown in that role probably about my second, third game up. One of our varsity centers had some problems that he had to step away from football, so at 160 pounds, I was starting for Brantford football, which scared Coach Clark, but I held my own, and it was pretty good. As for the summer workouts, I mean, back then they were maybe a little bit more loose. I mean, we were still required to have a set number, but you can definitely see the quality of players from the time I played till now. Just the increase in strength, the faster, more explosive guys now. And I think that's a true testament to this program just growing and evolving over the past couple of years. And I think Coach Clark has built a good program here. As a matter of fact, I mean, when it comes to brotherhood, they're still some of my closest teammates I talk to every single day. And, I think that's a good testament that some of those guys I've heard touch on.
Right. So that's good to kind of know that the program has kind of built something that you'll keep with yourself further on in life. I mean, which is really what it's all about. I mean, playing football, it's about, obviously you're trying to win. That's what you're trying to do, but having fun while you're doing it and creating a relationship with some guys that you'll continue to talk to after school and further on in your life. But speaking of life, what did you kind of find yourself doing after you graduated?
So after I graduated, I took a year off from college. I did state office for FFA. It was one of the programs offered here at school. It's a nationwide program. Following that year, I started attending UF, going after my bachelor's degree. Still currently in school, have a little bit left over, but I've also started an internship with Syngenta, it's a seed company. So it's kind of propelling me to the next step in life, trying to make a good living for myself and just be sustainable. That's what anyone can ask for.
Right, for sure. So what are you currently going to major in there at Florida?
Currently it's in agricultural operations management. Kind of doing my focus with that degree. You can pick different focuses, trying to focus maybe towards a horticulture agribusiness route, just, trying to build up, a resume for that career of going into seed sales or, trying to, figure out those experiments to see which one works the best.
Right, right. So the line of agriculture, which I've experienced through the classroom,
Mhm.
really runs in your family. So that's something that because your mom is the agriculture teacher here at Brantford, isn't she?
She is. So she's been teaching here for, I mean, since I was in first or kindergarten actually is when she took over, or first grade when she took over the ag program here. Started her annual ag day that she does for the students over there at the elementary school. Is trying to, educate them while they're young to get that thought into their head so that they, when they get here. But she's been teaching here for a while. I mean, she actually had the opportunity to teach Coach Clark. And so it came in a full circle moment. He's known me since I was little, so when I had the opportunity to play for him in football, he kind of messed with me a little bit about, because of course he's my mom's student and they were really close, and he knew my dad really well. My dad actually helped out a lot with the football program. When it
Right.
came to running the film equipment, those towers that we use for all of our film. He was instrumental in helping get that set up and get that running for us. So it's a definitely a tight knit community, and definitely agriculture and football had a big part in my family growing up.
Yeah, it's crazy how it all kind of connects and
Hmm.
rolls around. But that agriculture that has allowed you to continue on and have a career in that one day. I mean, what are kind of some of the things that translated from that you learned on the football field and the work ethic that you had to put in here that kind of translate to what you're doing now?
I mean, it starts right at the most important thing when it comes to anything you do in life, being on time. And if you're on time, you're already late. You got to be there early. So what Coach Clark taught me is get here early, get prepared, let's get this thing done, try to make ourselves better. And I use that same, mindset every day. Get up, get ready, try to be out there early as I can. Let's try to get the day done, quicker, but get a better jump at it. And if you can get that early start and, get that quality underneath your belt, it's going to prepare you for anything in life. That early jump that you get, you're 10 seconds maybe faster than the next guy that wants that opportunity. So it's just about being up and taking every opportunity you can.
Just just think of what football does for you, man. I mean, just the lessons that you learn. I mean, from
Mhm.
not only being on time, but the camaraderie, how to work together,
Mhm.
teamwork. How to be part of something, how to test yourself. I mean, just those things that translate further into life that help you.
And it goes back to also that brotherhood, like you mentioned, like I talked about earlier. You met no stranger on that field.
Yeah.
If you were in that locker room, you had 30 of your best friends right
Yeah.
there beside you. And I use the same thing when it comes to working. I was new to that, just got new to that internship last fall, or about time football season was in mid effect. And I refuse to, like work with somebody that's not going to talk to you. Like
Right.
you have to have those
Right.
connections. And so it makes everything go a lot better. When you're able to work together, you're able to communicate, you're able to get things done more effectively. And it's the same way on the football field. You can't expect your safeties and your corners not to be on the same page, because if they're on the same page, then you got a guy running 50 yards down the field wide open for a touchdown. So it goes back to that communication and the brotherhood you build, the being on time, the putting in the extra effort. Because a lot of people think, let's just do it to the amount where you get it done. That's not a good approach to have the life. Go the extra mile. That extra mile puts you so much further ahead of the next person and puts you in that opportunity to be
Yeah.
what you want to do.
Difference between winners and losers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you graduated in 21,
Hmm.
correct? Which means you started off high school what, in 2017?
Oh,
2017, 2018?
about
Right.
I
So
think.
that was actually about the time that Coach Clark was starting off here at Brantford,
Hmm.
correct? So what do you kind of see that has changed from him starting off to currently, like the growth and progressiveness that has gone this program and the build it in the correct way that it's going now?
So I believe it was his first or second full season here at Brantford. And prior to all of that, every year for I think it was all the way back to maybe the year after he graduated, Brantford had a losing record. And people came over here, and I'm not going to say that they were doubting Brantford, but they were thinking maybe it was an easier schedule game. And the fact of the matter is, he's changed the narrative here. Um, Starting from my year on, we had a winning record every single year, and that has continued from when I started in ninth grade. We went 5-5 when I moved up in the end of the year. 10th grade we went, I think we went 6-4, made it to the first playoff game, and well, it was a while, but made it the first playoff game. And every single year after that, it seems like Brantford's right there with a winning record, verge of playoffs or in the playoffs. And I think that just speaks true to the testament of how he's changed, the narrative and the mindset here. Because before Brantford football, people come in, they're like, well, we're just going to come here, practice for 2 hours, it's going to hurt after the fact, or it's good exercise. And now we're coming here to win a state championship, or we're coming here to compete. We want to make a name for ourselves. We want to go to the next level. And you see that correlate with a lot of people going to college after they get done playing here at this program. And I think it just speaks true testament to him, his work ethic, and his refusal to let anyone not, live up to those standards. Because no one wants to have somebody that doesn't put in the full effort, or all of us be on a different page. Everyone has to be on the same page for a team to function properly.
Right. So you've seen that, like, you starting off playing, you talked about in your ninth grade year, the numbers that were down, like in not having very much depth. Do you think that because of the way that the program has gone, the leadership that's been behind all of it, you think that's really what has brought the depth and more players buying really into the program?
And I think that, and I think a lot of it's like I said, everything it correlates with a mindset. My junior year, we realized that, we're good right now. We're competing at a playoff level. But if we want to be special, we want to be better. A couple of those guys that I've heard that are now in the program, they talked about it's that good on good mindset. So a lot of times we would have some guys that didn't play both ways. So during practice, they would in the past, go off and just rest while they didn't have their team period. My junior year, we started the start offensive line. We didn't play defensive line. Like we didn't play on defense. So instead of, maybe some of the quality was a little bit down, or some of the guys, they were younger and they couldn't compete with those older starters, we would step in and we would challenge that starting defensive line. Like, this is a starting offensive line. So
For sure, that's really good. So all that applies and kind of leads back to the upward progression of the program here in Brantford. Yeah, so thanks for joining us here today on the halftime show here at rivercountrysports.com.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Van Carpet One. For 78 years, we've been your local family-owned and operated floor covering store, and we can't wait to serve you. Let's go check out some of the stuff we've got and say hey to the guys.
Hey guys, this is Michael Van here at Van Carpet One. Wanted to show you our huge display of carpet. Got about 1,000 rolls for you that we can order. We also keep about 100 in stock that are on clearance, so please come down and give us a visit. We appreciate it. Come in and see the largest tile collection in North Florida. Van Carpet One has every tile you could possibly imagine. If you can't find it here, they don't make it. Guys, take a look at this. This is just some of our options in waterproof vinyl plank, where we have the largest selection anywhere around here.